On-the-scene coverage of ACC.14 is supported by Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Incorporated.
I'm Dr. Fred Beauvais. I'm here in Washington, D.C. at the ACC National Meeting. With me is Dr. Rod Staples from Liverpool, England, who's presented some very interesting data on a trial called Ppci. So, Rod, welcome to On the Scene, and why don't you describe the study and a little bit of some of your outcome observations?
Okay, well, thank you. Ppci was a study that compared two antithrombotic therapies in the setting of primary PCI for STEMI cases. The agents were unfractionated heparin and bivalirudin. The study had some unusual features. It was a single center study. It used a strategy of delayed consent. Patients were included, randomized, and treated without initial trial discussion. They were approached subsequently in their recovery phase for formal consent. We recruited 1,800 patients over a 22-month period, with the patients randomized in equal proportions to the two strategies. I think what makes the trial a little bit different is that we had a deliberate policy that we would use GP2B3A antagonists as bailout only in both arms. This means we get perhaps the first ever comparison of heparin and bivalirudin in STEMI with equal use of GP2B3A agents.
Okay, important study. We've used heparin for a long time. Heparin's kind of lost its glamour, and we've been using other things like bivalirudin. So what was the outcome?
Well, the primary efficacy outcome was assessed at 28 days. It was a composite of adverse cardiac events, all-cause mortality, CVA, reinfarction, and target lesion revascularization. In reality, target lesion revascularization contributed little. Only a single isolated event was a TLR alone. So the outcomes are driven by the more substantial events. We found that the rates were 8.7% in the bivalirudin arm and 5.7% in the heparin arm. This achieved quite levels of quite high statistical significance, and the absolute difference at 3% is clearly clinically relevant.
Complication rates about the same?
Yep, for the primary safety outcome measure, we looked at major bleeding, defined by the new BARC criteria, grades 3 to 5, and these were identical. We subsequently looked at minor bleeding, or the combination of major or minor bleeding, and they again were essentially comparable.
So this is really an important observation. I mean, obviously the cost difference between heparin and bivalirudin is pretty significant, and if we're getting at least similar, if not better results with heparin, then it seems to me there has to be a little bit of rethinking on how we're going to use bivalirudin for acute STEMI therapy.
Well, I do agree. The cost difference is substantial. In the United Kingdom, a typical patient, average body weight, average duration, the difference might be 500-fold. Increasingly, bivalirudin is being used with an extended infusion, which could push that difference to 1,500-fold.
Well, I think this is a very exciting observation. I think we'll be looking forward to hearing more. And let me thank you for being here with On the Scene.
Thank you very much indeed.